Mic Drop Radio.
What's up? Oh my goodness, this brings back memories. I'm excited. Jer, we're doing it. We're live. We got the Mic Drop Radio. We're making shit up as we go. We wanted to get off that Instagram thing. We wanted to have more impact here today, ladies and gentlemen. We're live streaming a little conversation. Jeremy Grunsteiner and I have been doing for what, dude? Like almost, 6 weeks or so?
Something like that. Yeah, around there, 6 weeks, almost 2 months. I think, if I remember correctly, we started about at like early July. So
yeah, dude, we're coming up.
Yeah,
we're vets. We're vets now. We know what we're doing, right?
I mean, do we? we're gonna do it until we do.
It's there. Mic Drop Radio. We're gonna do it until we do.
Or then we're gonna get to that point of mastery. You know, in the what is the old adage of the master admits like they know less than they did when they began.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I feel like that's me on the daily, man. That's actually that's a good lead in to what we're talking about today, man. Because like the more I'm in the game, the more I don't know about motivation. Apparently. You know, I'm looking at these quotes out there and I'm like, wow, is that it? Is that the secret? I didn't know. I've been doing this for 200 years. I'm a fucking dinosaur, but man, I've been doing it wrong by the looks of things. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I've looked back and I consider myself a digital pack rat. Like I'm a digital hoarder because I like to hold on to a lot, especially digital things or even like things that I felt were really impactful for me over time. Mm-hmm. And it's fun to go back and look at those things and go, oh man, wow, that was actually holding me back more than it was helping me. And there's so much of that, especially in the social media space, in being so connected. And we want to share our journeys and we want to be inspirational, impactful for others. Oftentimes, when we share some of the things, it comes across a little cringe, as the kids say these days.
Right?
Yeah, and it can also where we think we're sharing a vulnerable part of our story and something that could be empowering and uplifting. Yeah. It's actually uncovering that really victim-centric story that we have, and that we're not actually like living in that victory or that achievement of whatever we had,
right?
And we're actually we're glorifying the stuckness and the thing that was holding us back more than we're glorifying how we came through it.
It's more prevalent. That's the word I'm looking for. Prevalent. It's more prevalent now, I find, having coming out of the doldrums of the pandemic, and now people are actually coming in and trying to get back in. And I want to preface this with, I truly believe people are doing this with the right intention. I think that there's just very little knowledge on what is like the power of our actual words, especially when it comes to motivation. When we look at mindset, one of the motivational leaders out there, David Goggins, can't hurt me. Interesting. I want to get your thoughts on that. When that book came out, I wanted to just light my hair on fire. I was like, that's our leader in motivation, and also like really dark motivation, like really grind it out. Like that's a weird. I won't say it's entirely out, but man, about 85% of it just is ineffective. And it's just not even just a bias. It's not even just an opinion. That's just ineffective way to motivate intrinsically. Now, for anybody out there who's like, what do you mean? Jared, would you like to explain why just the title alone, Can't Hurt Me, is the opposite of motivation?
Yeah, so we'll unpack this from the language side first. And one of the hardest things that our brain has to consider, which is not thinking of something. So if we get back into the old, think of a purple elephant, what do you have to do? You have to think of a purple elephant to not think of it. So like pops up, then you go, the big Ghostbusters no symbol, no purple elephant. But then it comes back, no purple elephant. And you get into this thought loop
Yep.
that all of a sudden underlines hurt me.
That's it.
And there's also the other side of this. There's a subtle projection in there as well of you can't hurt me.
Yeah.
Interesting. So if I'm in this loop and I can't perceive of the can't, it starts to then turn into I have to then perceive of people hurting me in order to not perceive people being able to hurt me.
Yeah.
So then I'm actually living in and seeing this picture in my head of people hurting me.
Yeah.
And then now that becomes my visual perception and my visual filter. And so when that's queued up into the thing that I'm thinking about, I'm going to spend some time looking at thinking about ways that people can hurt me.
Proving it. Yeah.
And then the ego, which gets a bad rep in many ways, but it's there to help protect you. It's there to help prove you right.
Yep.
And so then it finds ways to help prove you right that people can hurt me.
Like you got it, boss. The way I like to explain this, it's been effective from some of my workshops. Some of the best feedback is like the RAS is like the bouncer. I was like, yeah,
Yes.
get it?
Yeah.
Speaking to an audience of musicians, they'll understand that. You know, it's like your door guy. Your door guy is going to be like, you're cool, you're in. You're not cool, you're out. The cool and the cool are the thoughts that you're thinking of. So if it's the purple elephant and you see a whole bunch of other purple elephants, you're like, oh, you got a whole fucking party of 10 of purple elephants. Don't, what? No, don't. We don't understand that. Okay, purple elephants, come on in.
Yeah.
Just like, yo, problems. We got problems. Oh, we got a car full of problems. Get them in. No line, no cover today for you, problems. Because that's what our reticular activating system is focusing on, right? Whatever we are thinking about, like Jeremy, you're saying, is literally what's going to get in and access. And we're going to work really, really hard to prove that right, which is what a good dovetail into some of the shit I've seen in Instagram this week when you messaged me like, hey, I've got this post I want to unpack. Dude, let's go. Where do you want to start, man? What's
so I could I'm a bit conflicted of like, do I bring up this person, put them on blast, or do I just read what they wrote?
Fuck it. We're educators.
Yeah.
And I'm a disruptor. If they have here's an issue. Here's an issue. Here's the thing I thought, because I had the same thought earlier. Like, am I going to blast these people? Probably.
Yeah.
It's an education, and if those people have actually done the healing thing, we're going to know that that's not a personal attack on you. You likely either don't know or you don't care. Negation's acknowledged. If you don't know, this is an opportunity to learn and grow. If you don't care, get mad at us. Get mad, fucking full send it. Send me all the hate mail. Like, dude, this is not my first rodeo. A dear friend of mine, Tom Messier, he sent me this after Dave. Okay, Dave Grohl and his fucking hooligans got mad at me. Come on, bring it on. I don't care. If you guys don't even take it out on Jeremy, I want all of the attention. Okay? If you guys, it's great. All news is good news. Yeah, share away, dude. We're not putting anybody on blast. That's the thing.
Yeah.
We're like, this is an opportunity to educate an entire couple of industries. This is huge. Let's go.
So I saw this one come up after the recent American Open Series. Maddie Rogers, very, very visible, very well-known Olympic weightlifter here from the U.S. So she had a hard time. She did not make the Olympic team, had some injuries, and has been working on her comeback story, if we could, say it as that. And she talks about this post here. A lot of questions this weekend, various meet and greets, how to overcome nerves and anxiety around competing.
Cool.
Does it get less scary? And I wish I could say it does. I was like, okay, now like I read that first line. I wish I could say it does.
Let me get the popcorn. Hang on.
Yeah.
Here.
Well, I'm going to unpack this as we go, just because there are a lot of pieces in here. There's some good stuff in here, and there's some not so good. Yeah. Now, already we're on the path towards the dramatization of this, and that phrase, I I wish I could say it does. Well, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, my friend. When you hold that self-limiting belief of it, competing always makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Competing always makes me anxious.
Yeah.
Well, now you've queued that up into the thing we were talking about, the reticular activating system, and now your ego is going to work to prove you right in
Yeah.
that situation.
Yeah.
For a lot of us, it doesn't get easier. And so, okay, and what are we going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
I've got some tools. I know how to do that.
Yeah.
I've gone through that. I know you've gone through that, and how
Yeah.
you've done that in an artistic perspective in space.
Yeah.
It doesn't get easier. You just get better at managing it, which I think is something I've put the most effort into lately. And man, is it a concentrated, hard effort. This is an axe I have to grind. I want to grind with
Yes.
with all things motivational posts. Is this goes back to our Goggins side of things. It's like, stay hard, motherfucker. Like why like I understand that things take effort. I am by no means saying that making progress and building yourself up and making changes to your life, they take effort. Do they have to be hard?
Right.
Or are you choosing to make them difficult and hard?
Why would I do that, Jeremy? That
Well,
makes no sense.
I mean, abracadabra, you've got a belief somewhere underneath there that believes that you're not worth it. Or you believe that because it's hard, I've created a resistance, or I've created a blocker for myself, so that when it does get to be a little bit uncomfortable, I can just say, oh, it was too hard.
It was too hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Homie, I wanted to touch in on that because I actually, growing up where I grew up and in the lifestyle, growing up on a farm, growing up on pennies, really. I mean, we did well enough. Like mom and dad, we got through the whole thing, and they did so much financially to support the farm. They were both working jobs. There's always a mentality, an underlying that mentality. And I love you, Mom. I love you, Dad. If you happen to be watching this, it is not you guys. This is a me thing. And I had to learn that the scarcity thing is driven by that. It's got to be hard. If it's worth it, anything worth it is hard. Everything that you do should be really difficult if it's worth it. And if it's too easy, you're not doing something right.
Yeah.
And I use a lot of negations in there, and I'm very aware of it. And that is the thing that I imagine holds people, because it's kind of nice to have that attention, that's kind of addicting. Like when you look at it, we go, oh, you know what? It's really hard. So if I can get some attention about it, oh man, class was so difficult. Like university, I was taking so many classes. It was so hard on me, and I was working at the same time. And there was this drama. But what did it do? It started conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of attention because of it. People were like, oh, poor you. Oh my
Yeah.
God, you're the student and you're working full time and you got a band and you're competing. Oh, yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
you know what I
Well,
mean?
and even if you are at a point where you can handle that, then it starts to become this little worm that can dig in there. Like, wow, I am working really hard. Oh, I am putting a lot of effort in. Oh, everybody else seems to be doing something, and then it spirals downwards. Yeah.
Addicted victim mentality, man. And
Yes.
there's a difference between being a victim of circumstance and victim mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a lot of it, and I'm going to get hate mail from this too, because we're all victims, guys. I'm saying I am there too. And anybody that we happen to use here today, this is a form of victim mentality. If your post makes it, it's part of the victim post, and it's okay. It's one of these things that we all fall into it. It's a natural part of our lifestyle. I actually truly believe that many of us, I won't say everybody because I'm only me, but I find that many of us and the people I've talked to, including myself, we have to experience that and be aware of what it is to make a change. Because again, it comes back to you're either unaware of something or you don't care about it, right? And if you're unaware and you decide to make a change in your future actions, cool, good for you. If you're unaware, you become aware and you still choose to do the thing, you're just proving the point.
Exactly. And that being said too, I've made these kinds of posts myself.
Same.
I've done these things. Competition doesn't go the way that you want it to, and it's like it might as it's so prevalent now that it is a trope, and like especially in the weightlifting world of
Yeah.
like a local competition. Oh, I didn't have the day that I wanted to, but I learned how this is how I prevailed in X, Y, and Z. But all the while I'm kicking the rocks, looking down at the floor, going, "Oh, poor is me. Everybody give me the pat on the back and enjoy my pity party."
Bingo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Let's pop through a couple of these things. In this next block, she talks a bit about the strategies that she uses, which if they work for her, great. These are not the things that I teach my lifters, and this is one of the big parts of why I wanted to tap into this. She talks about imagining how happy you'll feel when you're done or when you hit it. Imagine how happy you'll feel when you do the thing that you set out to do, and I feel like that's like level one. Like, it can be a good thing to start with.
Yeah. It's a good. Yeah.
And the other part of this,
to be clear, like what do you mean by starting with? Like, define
I think
that
it's
for me.
I think that's like a beginner level. Like, not to say like that. I think it's like that one's one that I see brought forward by a lot of people in various industries. Imagine yourself when you're done with this. And I was like, this is happening in 5 minutes, man. Like,
Yeah, like we don't have time for that.
We don't really have time
Very
to
surface.
like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I got you.
And
Okay.
so,
Yeah.
and so she talks, and what I'm leading into here is talking about the what ifs.
Yeah.
And talking about the what if the worst case scenario, because that's oftentimes the only thing that comes up is what if the worst thing happens? What if the worst things happen?
Yeah.
And if you find yourself struggling in that visualization of being able to hit the opener, hit the difficult lift, or make the total that you need to make it, can you focus on what if the best thing happens? Or this is what I come back to so often, which is, what if I have fun today?
Yeah.
What if I remove myself from the expectation of what I've convinced myself that I have to do? What if I have fun today? What if I enjoy this? What if I enjoy this sport that I've invested all this time, energy, and money into? Interesting.
What if?
Yeah.
Right?
What if that one?
Yeah.
Tell someone. It can be like, again, when we're in the midst of competition. Communicate with your coach. It shouldn't be the first time that you've told them that you're terrified of competing or that you're afraid. Like, this is a conversation that you have with your coach ongoing, and this is something to continually work on with yourself. And also, just talking about it or only talking about it. Guess what, folks? That ain't enough.
Yeah.
That's, again, we're talking scratch and surface level. You're being able to voice it and be heard is important. And also, I come back to this over and over and over again. Write that shit down.
Bingo.
Write it
Got
down.
it. We got it. How many times did I do that today? This week, Jeremy? Guess.
At least 20.
At least.
Yeah.
From Monday to Friday, the amount of times I could just hit. I got my soundboard here. I should just record myself being like, "Did you write it down?"
Yeah.
No. When was the first time you wrote that down? I never have. Interesting.
It's the same loop over and over again.
Just that. Like,
Yeah.
I could just pause. Oh my goodness. I can make a song.
So,
Dude.
exactly. Hey, we're getting.
So why do we write things down, Jer?
When we talk things through, our brain operates faster than our mouth. Our mouth operates faster than our hands. Thinking about this from the perspective of, everybody's seen that trick with the candle. You light the candle, you got the flame, you can pass your hand straight through it. What happens? Oh, we don't get burned. We don't feel the heat. We don't feel the pain. When we slow it down, it allows us and it forces us to actually feel the physical sensations and emotions that are coming up with this. When I verbal diarrhea this thing out, I can spill the beans on whatever it is that is bothering me. It could feel cathartic in the moment. Ultimately, though, I'm also avoiding that feeling and sensation. So then I lock that feeling up in my body, which is not a great thing to happen. The other part of it is, even when I'm saying it, even if I tell you the whole story, there's still I don't get to see it. I don't have that visual representation of being able to see the thing that I just walked you through by telling it to you.
Yeah.
I can't see it. So then because I can't see it, I don't actually know how big it is. I don't actually know how impactful this is for me.
Right.
When I can write it down, I see a beginning, middle, and end. And I see that this thing that I thought was a 10-ton rock is really a 5-pound rock. There it is.
Right. Or even the opposite, right? Even the opposite. Like when we miss the writing piece, we'll get to it. I see this all the time in my industry. Oh, we'll get to it. Well, guess what? Game day shows up. We never got to it. And now that little bit of like planning that could have saved you endless, like it's simple as like bringing the right cables. It's simple as bringing all of your backup gear. You know, if you've got a studio session and you've got, oh, well, they'll have it, and then it's not a problem. Now it's a problem because we're there, and like the one thing we could have done to avoid the thing that was going to make us a stupid stress case was completely forgotten because it seemed like it was because it actually didn't write it down. This goes way back to like when I was a kid. When we go for trips, I love to write down. When I was a kid, I was calling it a to-do list, like all the things I needed to do to be prepared for something, and like. I think the motivation piece ties into that preparation because like if we're prepared, we're fully ready, we believe in ourselves fully without this victim mentality as a sub layer, we're likely taking the extra time to do those things because it actually means something to us, you know, and that I don't have to get motivated to go fucking play drums. Like I don't have to go like there was probably a time I did, or I could have used something like that, but now it's something that I get really excited about. So I love to put in all of the reps on preparing for it, just like I did with athletic competition. I loved going into training camp. I loved going into warm-ups. I love to get like in that zone of like mentally regulating myself so I can perform.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do we got here?
So next section, she got something from her therapist of 5 things you can, being able to when you're in that anxious state, find 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, whatever. Keep going with those. That can be a great strategy for folks, especially if the anxiety is really overwhelming.
Yep.
The thing I come back to every summer. That's what happens when you wiggle your cable.
Good job. Good job, bud.
Jeez.
This is what you get with live recording, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly.
Jeremy he's gonna have a beautiful face again. You're still recording. You're good.
Yeah,
Just
it's all.
We got you. Come on back. Yeah.
There is I can't switch cameras, but I can turn off the camera. Oh, here we go. I just have to turn it on.
There you go.
Maybe.
We got this. Leave it to the tech guy.
Yeah, I know, right? That's the irony in all of it is that.
Well, when you figure this, like you figure this out, I can speak to the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I teach that. I really do believe that comes. I know where she gets that too. That's CSCS.
Yes.
Right. So that's a very common athletic performance mindset mastery piece that's taught as the godsend. There is an issue with it, and I want you to unpack that though. And now we got some cams. There we go.
Yeah.
Look at this guy.
Apparently, my other camera was covering the other camera.
Oh. Wow.
And so that I can't switch back. Anyways.
You're good.
The thing that I come back to is like I understand that competing can be very anxiety inducing.
Mm-hmm.
My first step is in letting my lifters know that that anxiety and that you feel, or that nervousness that you feel, is actually excitement. Let's start there.
Yeah.
And let's actually say that out loud, that I'm excited to do this.
Yeah.
Because that's also true. You're now putting that negative label onto it as anxiety and something to avoid or something to get rid of. It's like, no, I'm really excited. And so when we can change that lens from nervous to excited or anxious to excited, the performance lens changes, the mental picture changes.
Yeah.
And when the mental picture changes, what else is possible then?
Yeah.
The other side of this that I see as well is it starts to take us away from the actual physical sensation of the body. It starts to intellectualize. Like, yes, if you are getting to be in a panic state, this is a great strategy to bring yourself back to baseline.
Yeah.
When we are in a competition setting, being able to come back into your body, recognize the physical sensations, and recognize what is it that I'm actually experiencing, and breathe. Having a simple mantra of I'm excited, being able to feel those things personally and professionally of what I've seen in my lifters, that tends to work a lot better than an observational recognition.
Yeah. I think I'll play devil's advocate on her behalf on this. So people are like, but it seems like a good strategy. Yeah, it can be. And the reason I like to use it and playing devil's advocate to this whole thing is because we know, and I go back to that study that they did with the basketball players. So they had 3 lines, they had 3 groups. Control group would just take shots for free throws, right? Then they had another group that would visualize, and that's very different than imagery, folks, but visualize themselves taking a shot. And then they had another group that would visualize and practice. So they had a control group that would only just shoot free throws. They had a group that visualized and shot, and then they had a group that visualized. The outstanding results was that the person that was in the group that just took free throws did worse than the people that just visualized. Of course, the ones that visualized and took shots did the best for performance. But the thing that was shocking in that study and why it was such a was that the people that visualized and didn't actually touch a ball did better on the performance than the people that spent the same amount of time shooting. We would think at a baseline, like, well, if I practice, so for the Ollie lifter that goes and like puts in the reps and gets on the platform and practice, they'll actually underperform the person that just imagines. And here's why, is that when we imagine or visualize, let's say very, very basic surface, visualization is only cueing in on seeing it. And typically you get really good at being a spectator. When I walk people through what they know as visualization, and they show me what they've done in the past, I can see myself, I'm on the platform, oh, that sounds like you're a really good spectator in your own sport. Whoa, they're like, oh shit. I'm like, no, you need to be in the thing, like you're there lifting the thing up, not watching from a bird's eye view, because that's what you're going to imagine. You're going to see yourself and you're not actually going to be in yourself, which is wild. People don't connect those two. So visualization only cues in on the actual visual side of it, hence the name. Imagery is more about putting yourself in like the role-playing game. You're Call of Duty, you're in there, right? You're like literally the eyes, the ears, the everything. Right? The reason that works is because you can practice all 5 senses getting a complete atmosphere, a complete environment of your perfect ideal situation. You can practice endlessly on your ideal situation. What do we know about the mind? Well, it's going to cue in. So when you walk into that space, especially if you've seen the place you're competing, very helpful. Because then you know exactly what maybe smells are there and what you're going to walk into. I do this with green room work all the time. The artist knows the venue. They can come up the stairs. They know the stairs. They know to avoid the vomit over here. They know like all of those things. And then when they walk out on stage, they've already been there before. They were like, I've been here countless times, and their performance is that much more improved. So just to back up so that people understand this can be effective if done correctly, but there's so much wrong with relying on this. And Jeremy, you bring in a really great point that I think many people miss, is this idea that I'm willing to bet somebody's reading this post and they're going to do this.
Yes.
Now, do you want to take that?
Well, and then there's also okay, I'm going to go and do this, and I'm going to do this very clinical version of this, because that's what that is.
Yeah.
And what I see is a clinical version of,
For sure.
and this is very helpful for when you are getting into that space of full on anxiety, panic, because it's a grounding practice, really.
Yeah, this is a triage. When you're overwhelmed, use this for sure.
Yes, 100%. And also, what Mike is talking about is what I've used for years for myself and for my lifters, is that we've done the practice and we've done the reps of the visualization, and we focus on the physical feeling side of it. Like, what does it actually feel like? Not just what did I see? And so I love that you brought that in. And for most people, I would much prefer the visualization come back to that practice, come back to the physical sensation of what does it feel like when I succeed with this? What does a great lift feel like? Yeah.
Bingo.
And also, I wanted to also validate the study that you talked about with the basketball players, because I've also seen a replication of that same study with people learning to play the piano. So for you artists out there, this absolutely applies for you as well, beyond the physicality of a sport. This is also applicable to learning an instrument, learning a new type of part, being able to really get into that set. Yeah. We saw replication of the entire thing. The only change in the experiment was piano versus basketball.
How interesting, cool. Dude. And I do, like, when I was teaching drums, that's what, I mean, I was just bringing my athletic performance into that. I was like, okay, so before we even touch the sticks or anything, I just need you to take a couple good breaths. Because what I found is that when I approached a kid, didn't matter the age, didn't matter the experience, they would stop breathing when a hard fill came up. So yeah, and then what happened? Well, here's the thing, guys, is when you stop breathing, you put your body into a somatic state of stress. So now you're thinking you're running from a bear. You want to move faster. So really, really bad idea if you're a drummer playing to a click track, because you'll go into that fill at a different tempo than you come out. I promise that. I did it for years. I don't know how I'm still getting gigs, but you know what I mean? So and I just had a recording session yesterday. I was just locked, dude, locked. Yeah. Why? Breathing, right? So the first thing I would say for anybody, if you're like, you want to get triage, breathe. Just take a breath, and then you're going to put yourself into a state of mind where you can navigate, you can problem solve, which is what creativity is. I'm really interested about that study, and we'll link these studies. Well, I'll find some stuff. We can put these into notes. And that way, when people want to, they don't have to just like believe the talking heads here. We've got the studies that do it. And I want to make sure that I'm really interested. I didn't know they did that. I remember hearing something about that in the talent code, though, when I was reading that. They were breaking songs down, like virtuoso pieces, and they would break them down into like increments. And this one student could learn a masterpiece in 15 minutes because of the way that they taught how to learn. How crazy.
Yeah, it's piecemeal versus trying to eat the whale. She ends the post by saying it takes practice, but it can get more manageable.
What do you hear when you hear but? Anything come to mind? Like when you were a kid, when did you hear but?
It was usually in the case of, that was really great, but...
I have no idea what you just said. Yeah, it's just we forget that.
You just throw away, it's the backhanded compliment.
Yeah.
You look great today, but...
next time, why don't you shave a little bit, right? Like, it's like, fuck.
Yeah.
What's the challenge? What is that? Is that, we see it all the time, especially in copy, especially on Instagram, especially in motivation. Here's this awesome thing, but like sentences, like 5 or 6 in a row start with but. What does that do?
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing, I'm going to stop sharing here so we can have a little different view.
Yeah.
That was the end of the post, anyways.
Yeah.
The big thing that I see with this, especially in what we see with the copy side of things, because we're trying to hype up the emotional side of it, the emotional state. So we upplay the drama, or play up the drama.
Yeah.
And so when we can use something like but, where it negates the previous statement, it creates this sense of drama, because we go, oh. And so that's where, like, from a language perspective, people can create very simple hooks and whatnot. I don't think it's a hacky way of trying to get attention.
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah. Especially copy, marketing material like that.
All of
Yeah,
those
it's
types of things.
pretty
And so-
psychologically terrorism. It's basically like
absolutely.
it hijacks your brain, right?
Yeah. And so for those of you who are watching, listening, all the things, when you start to see a lot of buts in your marketing copy or the posts that you come through, be suspicious. Be suspicious of what's being actually said.
Yeah.
There's something else underlying that there's a manipulation happening. Whether the person
Means
actually
it?
knows that or not, that's
Very
it's-
unlikely.
Yeah.
Very unlikely. It's just taught, dude. It's just
Yes.
taught. The marketing game is taught based off of manipulation, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so then we see these things happening, and we see that under there, and it can really negatively affect where we put our attention and where we put our focus. And that statement that she had, but it can get better. At least there was a positive side on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I will give her some credit on that one.
It could go, but it'll never get better.
Yeah. But you still have to, I don't know, stay hard, motherfucker, or whatever.
Yeah, or
Whatever.
anything like, but don't stop. My favorite, and I've seen this about 115 times this week, is never give up. Don't stop.
Yeah.
You know, the difference between success and no success is don't stop. Just never give up. There's a way easier way to say that, Jeremy. Do you want to have a crack at it?
Always stick with it.
Yeah, keep going.
Keep going.
Keep fucking going.
Yeah.
It's like
exactly.
Because then we just, okay, that's all it is. But because what do we hear again? Don't stop. What do? We stop.
Yeah.
We stop. We literally stop. Don't stop. I can't give up. What do? We give up.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is, folks? That's
yeah. I there's, and also like to revisit what we started a bit with our I feel like I've talked about David Goggins in why it's not helpful more times than I've talked about that he is helpful.
Yeah.
There can be a time and a place where people do need to buckle down a little bit.
Yes.
Like there is a certain subset of, and I've recognized it for myself in certain points of my life. Oftentimes I need to go the opposite direction because given enough rope, I will hang myself with any number of tasks and amounts of work. And also for some people, there is a sensation where we do need to have a little bit of urgency, or we do need to have some pressure to do more or do better.
Yeah.
And so I will give him some credit in that space. It's just that he has a very dark way of doing it, and he likely has a deep level of some things for himself, and also he seems to simply love the torturing himself.
He really does.
And so, and being able to recognize that, of like, that's impressive. I can't. That's not me. I don't. That's not the space I want to inhabit. I want to be a happy, healthy human that gets to go on adventures and have fun. And negation acknowledging this, not beating myself up,
right?
Physically, mentally, or emotionally. I did that for enough years.
I know, right?
It's time for something else.
And I mean, that's the thing, is that so many people are wondering why they've been doing this all, and they read all of these motivation posts. And that's where I really want to turn this, because it brings to light another thing that we know. The biggest challenge with all of these posts, even the most, like the best language, the ones that are keep going, the ones that are you are powerful, the things like are all you got to do, like I saw this the other day, is all you got to do, the 5 things you got to do in order to have a proper positive mindset. This was interesting. I was like, okay, great. I was just looking through to see if I saved it, and I hadn't. So for next week, I mean, this is a recurring theme. I'm sure we're gonna have a theme on this. Yeah, motivation post of the day or some bullshit like that. So here's the one that as far as I remember, it was like the 5 things you need to do. And they were all really well-meaning. Now, for somebody who comes to this, especially from an artist standpoint, they're oftentimes spending a lot of time thinking they aren't powerful. They're thinking they're powerless.
Yes.
They're thinking that their voice is no good. They're thinking that they're all these things that are completely counter. Yet if you just read this, it'll fix. What's the challenge with that type of mentality when it comes to motivation and affirmations? I've got my thoughts. I'm curious to hear yours.
I want to hear yours first. I want to stew on that one just a little bit.
Yeah. What I've always said is, okay, well, let's say you're going to sit down, you're going to read, I am powerful. I am powerful. I am powerful. I am powerful. Sure. That could work. It's kind of like the diet of language. Could work for, I don't know, 12 weeks, could work for 2 days, could work for a year and a half, could work for 10 years. There's a point though where if that identity, that I would say is more like if we're talking about building a house, that's more the putting the walls up, putting the roof up. That's the habit. There's a foundation there that's known as your identity. That identity is much more important for the integrity of the house.
Yes.
So if you have an identity of feeling powerless and you read, I am powerful, I am powerful, I am powerful, you might put up a nice makeshift hut. And then a wind comes in and knocks it over because you actually have an identity of being powerless. There's no experiential, that's the one, experiential proof. You have no proof.
Yes.
Right? And that comes back to our earlier point of writing things down. When we get into, for me, I'll go into the hurt, harmed, haunted stories of typically first date because we know the phrase, put the gorilla on the table, right? Get the worst shit out of your system right now and everything else becomes much less. There's not so much drama.
Stare that ugly, scary motherfucker down.
Seriously. So when we write that big bad story that's been haunting us for so many years, for me was a Disney story, and I got that thing out, everything else that was directly or indirectly tied to that story didn't seem nearly as bad because I had already 30,000 foot viewed it from out here. The challenge was I was here in the story. So when we get that stuff down and write it down, we look at it, we see it from a totally different perspective, and then we can change, like we can see it now. So we're like you said earlier, it's like, oh, now I can see it because I wrote it down. So I'm no longer a part of that thing. I'm not emotionally tied to it from the same perspective. I can see it and then I can look at it and go, well, that I don't want that. Oh, okay, cool. Well, it was a learned behavior, so anything we learn, we can unlearn and put something new in there. And that's where we can look at what those words, actually the conflict language that we've highlighted, especially negations, projections, and soft talk that's in that belief system in maybe a couple sentences in that story, where it shows up like I felt very powerless when my whatever said the whatever, right? As an example. And then we look at that, I felt very powerless when my, well, wait a minute, when we own that now. Never mind that other person, when I made myself feel very powerless. Oh, well, that's a shift. And how do you want to feel? Like, does that make sense? No, I don't want to fucking feel like that, says most people.
Yeah.
And then they go, okay, so what do you want to feel? I want to feel powerful. Okay. I can make myself feel powerless. I can give myself power. I can, whatever works for you. We find, again, it's about you. All right answers. So when we're sitting down and doing story sessions with either artists, athletes, or anybody in the world, that's the process that I have found that flips the switch from, we have a whole hurt ass story that we spent almost 75 minutes on. And in the last 15 minutes, we have now got an absolute sandwich, shout out Ryan Wall, a sandwich or a lasagna of 4 to 5 affirmations from that exact same experience, that when we uncover what was really said and then have the conversation, they've now got a power statement. That's what I call it. And that's their identity. That's their mantra. We can put that to song. We can talk that out. I say 111 times. First thing, last thing, top of the day, bookend your day with that affirmation lasagna 111 times. Guess what, guys? You start to believe it from your own experience because you took it from your own story.
Yes.
That's how wild it is, right?
And I fully agree and have had the same experience with myself, other clients. The amount of clients that I've worked with that have, I asked, "Oh, have you ever done affirmations?" "Oh, I have a book of them next to my bed." And I go, how well do those work for
Yeah, do
you?"
you even open it?
Well, I've known many of them who have.
Yeah.
They every morning they like flip to a new page. Who am I going to be today?
Oh, interesting.
And like yeah, or like there's that one, or like I have a few that I come back to very often, and then we get into something. We work a story. We craft those, and I go, how do these compare to what you've been reading? They're like, doesn't even like
Yeah.
the ones out of the book are trash in comparison, like below trash.
Often, like if I can just jump in there, I just had
Yeah.
this experience on Tuesday. It's often because it's you know how you said there's layers?
Yes.
They're still at that basic entry that you were
Hmm.
talking about. They're
Yeah.
still there, but they want to, and that's really good. That's awesome. That's the drive
Yes.
that we want to get to that I am powerful. You've spent 35 years thinking completely opposite. Is it
Yeah.
realistic for you to overnight, even in 30 seconds, to think that that's realistic?
Yeah.
Maybe not, right?
Yeah.
What
Because
can
there's
you
the
do
other
to
side of
step
it.
that?
The other side of it is it's when we don't have that underlying identity side of things, like you talked about.
Mhm.
You may as well be if the belief that you want to create is I am powerful, and you haven't created an identity that is outside of being powerless,
Yeah.
you may as well be saying I am an elephant.
Yeah.
Like
I
you
was
may
just, I
like
was just
like
gonna say.
you could just say like it could be something that seems so ridiculous because
Because it is.
in your underlying mind, it's seeing those things as so impossibly unattainable
Yeah.
that I might as well be trying to be an elephant
Yeah. A purple one.
or whatever. Exactly. Yeah, tie it in. It's a callback, folks. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
right?
And there's one thing I wanted to bring up as well because I had this conversation 3 hours ago.
Fresh.
Very fresh.
Okay.
And it was with a very long term friend. She's also a client of mine. I'm actually a client of hers
Okay.
as well. And we talked about this in the realms of, well, I'm doing the work. I'm writing the things down. I'm working the stories, and yet it doesn't feel like it's working, or it feels like it's not enough, or it feels like a friend. Okay, let's unpack some of these things. And
Mhm.
I understand because I have also struggled with this from time to time. Of like, I know all the secrets behind the curtain on this story work thing. I've seen enough pros working this. I've worked with some other coaches in this as well. Reached out to my network and had that. I've done enough of the sessions for myself as well,
Yeah.
and I recognize that doing them on your own can be a daunting task, and it can be very easy to slip into that um, subtle victimhood and
Mhm.
not actually step aside from it, which
Yeah.
is why coaches like us are out here to help y'all. And
Yeah.
so, put a quick little plug. So, if you are struggling to move through some of the things that we're talking about, or struggling to actually even get the story written down, hit us up. Whether it's working with us, we also know a good number of coaches that utilize the same technology and more
Yeah.
that can help put you through. So I wanted to put that out there too.
Yeah. And
When
dude,
that's there,
I
we're here to help.
I think, and to tie it back to the type of people we tend to work with too, is that imagine yourself going into a training session where all you see is your loathed front squats. And for whatever reason, you've built up this thing, you hate fucking front squats. How much easier is it to skip out on that on your own, right? Or for me,
Yeah.
the artist that I work with, how much easier is it for you to make up the story why you can't write a song when
Mm-hmm.
you're not in a room with other songwriters? You are there. We have something that way back before I was the mindset kid, I was also the mindset kid. I
Mm-hmm.
remember the word emotion. I heard this on Bledsoe's show one time. I forget if it was him or if it was a guest. It was one of the Barbell Shrugged
Mm-hmm.
homies, though. And somebody came on and said the word emotion is very interesting because if we look at it and break it down, this is the first time that I really started examining the power of words. Emotion is like emotion is feeling, but if we look at the root, motion. So oftentimes we wait for the feeling before we decide to do the thing, and that can actually, we can reverse that and build and generate the feeling of doing something through the act of doing it. So when you sit down and just start doing the front squats, when you sit down and just start writing songs, it's like a muscle. It'll respond, and you'll start to get into what you have to wait for, flow state, or I got to feel strong, or whatever. It's like we can hijack our brains in a good way by doing simple things like that. And then the other point on that I went a layer deeper is that emotions are all neutral. Feelings are the subjective nature of the emotion, right? Anger is neutral. How you feel about being angry, that's likely rooted towards some event that your subconscious mind has now completely blanketed to protect you. Very good, subconscious, thank you. But that subconscious is like that little kid that has the iPad, and we can just put them back over here into the car seat while you drive the car.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and those feelings are likely their own lasagna of complexity as well, of all the layers and all the
Yes.
stories and all the experiences that comprise of it. Yeah,
Very good point, man. Very good point. Now,
yeah,
as we wind things down here, just being pro on the clock, keeping these in between 45 and an hour, I think
yeah,
is reasonable to get a
totally.
good digest. Now we can post this back up, and we got some great. I'm sure we'll get lots of questions and hate mail from anybody that supports Maddie, but wow, dude,
Yeah.
you'd be surprised. Like I suggested with the whole Dave Grohl thing, like way back. I'll post this, guys. Like you cannot hurt this guy. You can't hurt me. Stay hard, motherfucker.
Who's gonna carry the boats?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, but here's the thing: is that when you put these things out there, people can do one of two things. They can go, "Oh, that's very interesting." You'll know a lot about that person, the way that they react, because oftentimes I'm always teaching this. I'm all like literally always, not always, because I'm not doing it like 14 seconds ago. Most of the time, I'm teaching something along the lines of this. Okay, be accurate, Schwartz. When we start with something as silly as you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do that, and somebody goes, whoa, no, 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 no. We got to be mindful of being kind, because oftentimes we are unaware about the war that person is waging inside that they are unaware of. And oftentimes those reactions come from a sense of insecurity from something that they are yet to even face.
Yes.
Not out of malice. You just happen to be in the way. Like, you're the one that said it. You're the mirror. If anything, you're going to be thanked by them 5 years, 6 years when they figure it out. They're going to like, oh, fuck, that's what he meant.
Yeah.
I've had that. Have you had that? Like years?
all the
Yeah.
time.
And they hate you right in the moment. Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Well,
you're
I've
the
been on
devil.
the receiving end of it as well.
yeah.
Of like,
Yeah.
I had the owner of the gym that I used to work for. I was expressing my somebody that we both know, an educator,
Yeah.
and how much I disliked how he taught,
Yeah.
and I was just so upset about it. And I was like, I hate all this. I don't know why I'm going through this. And I was like, does the guy even know how to smile? Like, he's the driest presenter, all these things. She goes, it's a hell of a mirror, isn't it? Walked away, and I about lost my shit.
Oh, God, that's good.
To
Hell of
your
a mirror.
point, yeah, basically, and just like Mike dropped that one and
Wow.
just beelined her way out. Yeah, and also to your point though, like to pull this back just a hair, of the things that the wars that the person is waging that they may not even be aware of. To your point of if you hate front squats, how often are you waging that internal war because you're reinforcing the story that I hate front squats?
Yeah.
Come on, man. Like give the front squats a chance. They're my favorite kind of squats, by the way.
Mine too.
Give the front squats a chance, folks.
Yeah.
And also, could you give yourself the permission to create a mental playground of a world where you could enjoy front squats?
Yeah. What if?
Yeah.
What if I had fun with front squats?
Exactly. I call them thought experiments. I know other people call them different things. Thought experiments, they don't cost you a dime, folks.
No.
Play with them. Play like
Just play.
you get to
Just try
like,
it out.
that's the craziest and coolest things about just existing in general. I believe is that you have the ability to sit, close your eyes, and hallucinate an entire experience without any psychedelic like anything.
Yeah.
And so you could this call it visualization, call it a thought experiment,
Yeah.
whatever you want. You have this crazy ability to have VR in your own head. You don't even need the technology. You can run that simulation for yourself.
Yeah.
What would it be like if I loved front squats? Try it on. And if it doesn't fit and it doesn't feel great, put it to the side.
Yeah.
Maybe pick
Come
it up
back.
again.
Explore it.
Yeah.
What if I did a goblet squat? That's not quite. It's not quite the same.
Like,
Right?
could I like that better?
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's smaller. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Could I like front squats with a dumbbell or kettlebells versus with the barbell? Like there's all these different Zercher squats. Like there's all kinds of ways. But there's also this also plays into anything else in our life.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, what if I enjoyed doing the dishes?
Yeah.
What if I enjoyed doing all the things that I dislike doing?
What would that bring us?
Yeah.
Well, cleaner kitchen.
Yep.
Right? My spouse wouldn't be yelling at me all the time, causing me stress.
Yeah.
We can unpack that later.
Yeah. All kinds of things.
The world that we live in would be better.
Yes.
Just from doing dishes?
To bring it back into Maddie's post, that was the first thing that she talked about, was being able to envision and visualize the good part at the end. And this is why I said it was like it can be, if you're only doing that, like especially if you're doing it only on competition day, that's why I say it's like beginner level stuff.
Yeah.
When we can go back into looking at our training, looking at our day-to-day life, and seeing those areas where I can do the work and the benefit that comes from at the end, that's where the actual pro shit happens. That's where I can actually go and see all of the connections through. I see that if I enjoyed doing my dishes, I wouldn't be so stressed about a messy kitchen. I wouldn't be so stressed when I go to cook things. I wouldn't what does that also lead to? Oh, that leads to better productivity in my workday. That means that I'm eating better food. It compounds in a bigger way than simply being in this small space of only envisioning the best part of the end.
I love that, man.
This is the Warren Buffett strategy.
Of course.
Compounding interest of the mind versus the initial gains of a lottery ticket.
Reddy is always talking about that. Hey, like when we talk about principles of threes, how many days can we go without food? 30.
Yeah.
Okay. How many days can we go without water? 3, 7. Yeah, it's anywhere in between there.
Depends on the person.
Yeah, really. Like 3, you don't want to be having, like, if you're not doing anything with food, you're not getting any sort of water, 3 days is going to be really difficult for you if you're not getting any sort of sustenance, right? How long can you go without a breath, typically?
I mean, if you're really trained, 3 minutes.
Yeah, really trained. That's exactly it. Most people,
a minute.
You're blacking out at that point, right?
Yeah.
Right. And then how long can you go without a thought? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the killer. Yeah.
So why do we why is all of our motivation, think about our motivation posts to bring this right back. Why are all of our motivation posts based off of what you should be eating, how you should be sleeping, and all of these things that are much longer compounding when we're not actually thinking about the way we think? That's the compounding thought right there.
Mm-hmm.
If we had more motivation that was because we know that the thoughts are articulated from our words, if we chose better words, would we have better thoughts?
100%.
What if we had better thoughts knowing that they build a belief system?
We have better belief systems. We have better identities. And
you're unhappy about where you are. And that's what I mean. Like if we have more consistent, better thoughts, we have a better more consistent belief system, which contributes to better, consistent outcomes. So those moments of down get smaller and smaller and smaller. And we compound the better moments throughout our day, which makes a better morning, makes a better afternoon, makes a better day. Now we got a couple of good days, now we got a great year, now we got a great decade, now we got a great career, now we got a great whatever it is. It starts at the basic level of thoughts, though. That's the compounding interest you're talking about. So it's like,
Exactly.
why don't we spend more time on like what these motivational posts actually are saying? Because we could go into this next week on song lyrics.
Yes.
That's a motivational post from hell.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, let's think about how we think, folks, which comes back to the language. And there's a lot of stuff out there on the socials that are really just questionable. So
100%.
I want to wind this down with
Yes.
we've got the school community. You know, you're a part of it. I love having your insight in there. I think that that's a really great outlook for people that are like, that brings up some things. I want to learn more. It's a free community. Come in, talk to guys like me, Jer. We got a whole community of everybody learning at the same place. I know that that's been already profound for even my longest serving clients. They're now at the point where they get to teach the skills that they've done to like the next crop of people that this is new to, which is really empowering, and it's a very supportive way of doing community. And I really like that. Is there anything that you'd like to promo as well, or then we can talk about what's up for next week?
Nothing really to promote right now. I've been it's been I know that Labor Day in the States is the official end of summer. It's still very summery for us, so I still consider it. Been working like a bit of a demon all summer long, and I am looking forward to next week being a slower week. Cool. And I've got a new opportunity that's coming up that starts next week, and that is going to allow me some more space to actually come in here and be part of the community, be able to create some new things, and really bring in my perspectives into this community, and also for my weightlifting community. So I'm looking forward to all the things that's going to be. And in the meantime, I'm going to be taking it a little slower over the next week.
I love that. Well, one of the things that I want to talk about as we tie this to next week and how things can be moving forward is when we put this up, it's up in the school. That's Music Fit University, MFU. MFU. We can get some more guests, some more perspectives on here in this kind of a medium too, and we can really deep dive on any of the thoughts. We can get studio audience going. So I will do my best to make sure that that's all promoted. So if anybody does have some different thoughts and maybe some questions, and we can make it more of a round table situation. We can get some more leaders in here to give some more info that they've experienced. I know Leanne is competing today. She's doing her power lift. So mutual strength coach in our world. So she's competing up in Cairns.
She's doing the dark side of lifting. She went over.
Yeah.
She went over there again.
She went back. I know. We talked about it. We're dropping her podcast about it in a couple hours. So cool. That's new. We got Meg in there, athletic therapist from Winnipeg, who's just killing. And really, really helping, just really found her space. And we've got just so many good voices in there that are just active leaders, and giving that little bit of stage really does make the difference. Because I find, when we talk about progressive mastery, it's about teaching. That's the final step. Yeah. When you think you know it, teach it, and you will learn it even quicker. So that's what I got. As far as next week goes, I'd love to talk to you about seasons. We didn't get into it today, but I'd love to talk about because with us, it's funny you mentioned summer. For our Australian friends, they're just coming up into their touring season. They're coming up into their summer. For us, we're just winding it down. And when we look at artists, musicians, bands as a tour is really our in season. That's like when we're go. Bands are just finishing up this tour, especially in Canada. Many don't tour over the winter. It's more of like a hibernation in the studio, write new music, go and collaborate with other artists, that type of thing. And I'd love to get your thoughts on if there's similarities between that and what we've both experienced in, and especially you with your lifters being in competition, and if there's different strategies to how we approach things like mindset, motivation, as well as the technical skills of what it goes into your training regimen at that time. Are there differences between on season, off season, preseason? What's one that I'm missing? And there's like vacation.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any differences? I'd love to, if anybody's watching this and you want to have at her for some questions, we're all for it. But would you be into that for next week?
Absolutely. Yes.
Cool.
I've got a lot of thoughts on that, of how it applies not only for lifting, for artists, and also just for general life, because we often forget that.
Yeah, we're on season.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
What season of life am I in right now?
Bingo.
Because if we try to roll, if we're Sisyphus and we're trying to roll 1,000 boulders up 1,000 hills, we're not going to get very far. No. If I can be focused on my one season of life that I'm in and roll my one boulder or maybe 2 boulders, I can get a lot farther.
Double press.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about as hard as the front squat.
Yeah. Double boulder press.
Boom, boom, boom. All right, dude. I'm sure I've got a thing. Yeah, I've got a great one here. Any final words before we close things out? You all good?
I'm good. Word, man. That's my word.
Word is the word. All right, dude. We will see you next week. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Till next time.